Welcome to Influence Matters, the show that teaches you how to turn your story into impact and your expertise into influence. I am literary consultant and hybrid publisher Clara Rose. I'm your host today. Each week, I talk about topics that are related to crafting your message for the world and building influence for your business, ministry, cause, or brand. And then, of course, I often have a guest who's doing something unique or interesting that I think you might be interested in. And so I bring them on the show. And today I do have a special guest doing something super unique, and I think you're going to be interested. So let me just tell you about him really quickly. He's a seasoned government sales strategist. Sounds complicated, but I promise you're going to understand that. Um, he is a diagnostics industry veteran. So he's been in the industry forever. He's the founder of TriStar Business Solutions, a firm that is dedicated to helping organizations sell more effectively to the US government and healthcare groups that are purchasing organizations. And over the course of his 25 plus years, he has led national sales teams, managed over 200 million in annual revenue, and consistently delivered measurable results across clinical diagnostics and the laboratory sectors. His experience spans senior leadership roles with the industry leaders such as Beckman Coulter, Bayer Healthcare, Siemens, all the big guys, where he built and coached teams selling high value, high complexity laboratory instruments, reagents, and services across government and distribution markets. He's a former U.S. Army Reserve captain and a decorated clinical lab officer. He served in Operation Iraqi Freedom, where he led a military lab operations in a combat support hospital, an experience that shaped his belief in simplicity, structure, and clarity, both leadership and execution. Tom's new book, The Sales Scorecard, reflects his philosophy that sales success comes not from complexity, but from consistent execution, simple tools, and building trust across every stakeholder, from frontline user to C-suite, and then drawing on decades of real-world experience in national accounts, strategic contracting, and clinical environments. Tom shares a blueprint for creating predictable sales outcome with minimal noise, maximum impact in his new book. Please help me welcome Tom Mittelstadt. Are you with me, Tom? There you are. Wow, that was
Hey,
a mouthful. Welcome to the show, my friend.
that was a mouthful. That
That
was.
was a
Wow.
mouthful. But it's all really super relevant to what you do. But I always like to start by letting my guest, so in your own words, tell my audience what it is you really do.
Yeah, I think you summed it up nicely, Clara. But what I do generally is I help organizations navigate what appear to be sometimes complex sales opportunities across usually committee type decisions. And many of them are either regional or national. They involve numerous stakeholders, from C-suites to purchasing managers to people that are on the bench in the laboratory. And this goes across the industry as a whole, the medical diagnostics industry. This includes group purchasing organizations. This also includes government, where a lot of people are intimidated by the government piece, which is in many cases where I come in. Um, I found over the years that there are sales teams that many times bypass government opportunities because they feel like they're too complex. And it's not that they're so complex, it's just that it's an unknown. So what I really work to do is help small, mid-sized companies, um, and I work with large companies as well, to just take the complexity out of how you navigate these government sales opportunities, from the contracting side to the negotiation side, review of terms and conditions, pricing. And then the sales execution piece. And what many people just don't, in a lot of cases, understand is that it's really not all that different in the government side as it is in the non-government commercial market. Your stakeholders may have different titles, and the terms and conditions of your agreement might vary, but it's actually simpler in the government space if you understand it. So my goal was to kind of take that complexity out and help coach organizations on how they can get the best value for their government contract, who they need to be working with, who are the stakeholders that they should be calling on, what are the titles of these people, what's the lingo that they would want to use in order to get the most impact, and then how do they go through the sales process itself. It's really not all that different in the government, where you have VA systems that work very much like integrated delivery networks or IDNs, for those that are familiar with that industry term. You'll have committees of people that will go through a purchasing process. They want to look at the clinical utility of the product. They want to look at what's the best value, so that the government's getting, the best value pricing, consistent with what they're going to get in the commercial market. And then you just go through the process and follow the rules. And the nice thing about working with the government, one of the reasons I find it helpful, is that many times they just communicate to you the rules of the road. You follow the rules, and if you do that, um, and they again give it to you in writing many times, it can be easier because they outline the rules. Where in the commercial market, you have to go through, a lot of interviews, going through the selling process. You're not really sure where you stand. Who can you talk to? Who can you not talk to? In the government, it is all laid out nice and clear. You sell the value of your product. You work the contracting process. You connect with the right people. Follow the process, and if you win, great. If you don't win, guess what? You actually have a debriefing opportunity that is in the government
Nice.
process, where you can learn from your losses and then carry that learning into the next opportunity. You may or may not get that in the commercial market. In the
Mm.
government, you're many times going to get a nice, clear understanding of, if you do a debrief on why you won, you can still learn from that too. But if you don't win, you can learn from that. So win or lose, there's something that you can. So taking all of that mystery out of it is what I try to do for organizations, which is, it's a simple process. In writing the book, I looked at the years of experience I've had and really tried to condense it into a workable tool that I think people would find easy to understand and follow.
What I loved
That was
about
about.
the process of helping you write the book is I learned so much about, a kind of sales that I didn't know anything about before, right? So we're all in sales, we're all selling something to someone, right? But you're talking about committee style sales, right? This isn't one-to-one business or business to consumer. This is a salesperson actually selling to a committee of people, right? There is not a singular person that you're selling to, right? So you can't just schmooze the one, right? Or get to know the one person. You
Right.
need to understand all of the people involved and get to know all of the people involved and follow the rules at the same time. So I loved that about the book as we were working through the process of digging all of that out of your brain to put into the book is all of this uh, complexity, and it could be super overwhelming to somebody. I would think
Mhm.
super overwhelming to think I don't even know how to begin to approach this process where I'm selling to a bunch of people at the same time. So I think that the book does that beautifully, where it just breaks it down. It's very granular. It's like, here's the people you're going to be talking to. Here's what you need to know about them. Here's the process. So I think anybody in sales can benefit from reading your book. Absolutely. Doesn't have to be committing sales, but especially if you're selling to an organization where there's more than one person who's buying, right, or making the buying decision. So, now
Exactly.
talk talk a little bit about why you decided to write a book and how you're going to, because that always interests me, right? Because I help people write books for their business, essentially, most of the time. Um,
Mhm.
so what got you to that point where you're like, okay, I need to write a book? And then how are you using it or going to use it and integrate it into your business?
Sure. Um, so I guess the thought behind this was, and I've been through a lot of sales training. If you've been in either this industry or any industry where you have large dollar sales, especially with a big company, they do invest well in their sales organizations. And many people have been through Miller Hyman, they've been through spin selling, they've been through challenger training, they've been through Sandler. I mean, there's a whole list of very good sales tools that companies will invest in to help coach their sales teams to be effective in their sales craft. And I'm not saying go away from any of that. The organizations invest a lot in these. They're very, very good tools. And I think people should take them to heart and definitely use them. Um, where I found there was an opportunity is when you're a leader without authority, and this is where many of either folks like me or my peers would come in. Is you'll have a committee that's located in multiple states, sometimes across the country, sometimes anywhere from the East Coast, let's say North Carolina, and other committee members that could be as far away as in California, sometimes even Alaska or places like that. And you're going to have salespeople that are in these different geographies as well. So all of them are going to go through their sales training. But as a leader without authority, in a lot of cases, because a lot of times these people won't report to you, you'll be a manager that's responsible for a very large account that has multiple salespeople across the geography. And you need to keep people on task and motivated for a long period of time. You need to keep them engaged, but you also need to keep it simple. So I felt that just based on the experience that I had and some peers of mine that I worked with, we found that a scorecard process was the best way to decomplicate at the local level what people needed to do to be effective in ensuring that you're going to be able to get the best value from your time in working with a committee over multiple states over a long period of time. Campaigns can go anywhere from months, sometimes years. I've seen them last, 18 months, sometimes a little bit longer than that. And when you have such a large geography and a number of salespeople, you're going to have varying levels of experience, responsibility, influence, and in order to manage all of this, you need to kind of decomplicate it for the local salespeople. For example, you'll have a salesperson in a geography of, let's say, North and South Carolina. Another person has maybe Southern California and Arizona, and they may have anywhere from their experience. That could be a brand new rookie to somebody that's been in that sales territory for sometimes decades. So you need to be able to determine at any time what is the level of influence you have over a committee. You might have 20 people that are making this decision. They all might be, and usually they're voting members, so to speak. And those that get the most votes will generally win the sale. And I know I'm kind of decomplicating it maybe a little bit too much in that case.
No.
Um,
Mm.
but but the reality is that if you're a person that has responsibility for, let's say, a $50 million a year decision that's being made that could really drive revenue with your company, and you've got 15 different salespeople that are calling on 20 different people across multiple states, which is a reality in many of these committees. And these local salespeople, you got to remember, they have competing goals as well. They've got
Mhm.
long-term sales goals, short-term sales goals. They've got people that they're selling to in addition to this committee decision that is going to influence the organization. So you've got to simplify it for all of them. They need to know
Mm.
who they're calling on, um, and they can use whatever the sales tools are that they've been provided by their company or from their experience. But you, as the person that's leading with that authority, that ultimately has responsibility for winning this opportunity, you got to connect with your people. You got to be able to have a short conversation, know when they met with them last, when are they meeting with them again, Did they ask those high value questions or high gain questions on, are they somebody that is going to vote for you when that voting time comes? Or are they leaning towards the competitor? Are they totally in the
Mhm.
competitor's camp? You measure those metrics, and early on, you'll be able to know, am I winning this? Am I losing
Mm.
this? Do I feel like I'm really winning this? Is it, it's never a slam dunk. You never know until the decision is done.
Right.
Or the other side of this is, are you, 18 months into this camp, and maybe not 18 months, that's probably a bit of a stretch, but let's just say,
Mhm.
you're like 6 or 9 months into a 18-month decision, and are you, are they so much in the competitor's camp, do you really need to go focus on other things
Mm.
and be able
Right.
to drive your company's revenue somewhere else? So the better feel you have for where you stand, keeping it as simple as possible, gives you the best predictable outcome, or are
Mm.
you going to win this sale or not? So if you have 20 committee members and you've been able to confirm that you've got, 13 votes, and then you got a couple that
Mm.
are lingering, then your people know where to kind of keep those relationships going to ensure that those 13 stay secure. And then who are the decision makers that are those remaining seven that you can have the most impact with? If you've got,
Mm.
five of them that are just totally in the competitors camp, and you've got two that you think you can influence, then you know where to focus your efforts and support those
Mhm.
teams even more to get those other people that are in your camp. So the better you measure that, the more predictable outcome you're going to have in that process. The flip side of this, if you've got
Right.
15 in the competitors camp, and you think you don't really feel like it's going to be a good investment of your time for whatever
Mm.
reason, then you know that you need to go find maybe another place to spend your time so that
Right.
you're talking to the people that your product is going to fit with best. And this
Right.
just
So you don't
simplifies
end
it.
up wasting
Gives your
time.
yes. So
Yeah.
you follow up with
I
your
love
people, you have your cadence calls, and keep it short.
So I love how it just simplifies the idea of a scorecard just simplifies things because even though I'm not in a position where I sell to a committee, I can see how it could become uh, almost a nightmare. From a logistics standpoint, right? Just even getting
Mhm.
everybody in the team on a call to find out where everybody is and who they've talked to and the progress they've made. Yeah, I mean, you could spend hours on a call just trying to find giving everybody an opportunity to update, right? Here's where I'm at, here's what's going on. So instead, you have like a scorecard, right? That's super simple to use that you can show each other, right? So you know exactly where everybody is at any given point. I think that's the beauty of it. That's where the simplicity comes in, is it just keeps everything neat and tidy. I love that. I love that whole idea.
Mm.
I actually we how long did we work on your book? Like a year, probably to get through the
A little over a
process?
year.
A little over a
Yeah, we
year.
started
And
in April, May of 2024.
yeah. Yeah. So it took us a while to get through the book, but even in the process of the creation of your book, I started using the idea in my own business model for keeping track of things because it can be even just one on one. It can be difficult to keep track of all of the leads and all the, where am I at with what person in the process. So you don't have to like try to store all that stuff in your brain. And then you can literally nurture that lower hanging fruit. So, um, one of the things I love about what I do is that I get to learn so many new and interesting things
Mm,
from other people, experts in their
very
field.
nice.
So that was a cool part of the process for me. And it just also opened up my eyes to a world that I was completely unaware of, which is the selling, not that I'm in a position to sell to government contracts, but a lot of people might be. So, talk a little bit about the kinds of clients that would come to TriStar Business Solutions, your business, for your help. What kinds of clients are best suited for you?
Sure. Really, anybody that's in the medical diagnostics industry
Mhm.
is somebody that I could help with. Where I was targeting my business initially was like small, mid-sized companies that are just not familiar with how they can, navigate this market. So, so essentially, anybody that's in the lab diagnostics industry is where I am probably the most effective, just because I know the market, know the industry,
Mhm.
know the customers that they're serving, I know the schedules that are in place. I know how the process works, whether it's in the commercial market or the government market. So those are really the best clients that we can assist with.
Okay, just healthcare in general or hospitals or
Yeah,
larger healthcare
health
organizations?
healthcare in general, and
Mhm, okay.
the diagnostics industry can be relatively somewhat of a closed market, but I've worked with people that are in the wound care side of this.
Mm,
People actually
mhm,
worked with some cybersecurity companies, worked with those that are in the diagnostics market that are doing like HPV testing and so on and so forth.
mm,
New market entrants that are just trying to find a space for their products. We can do a market analysis and determine,
mm,
what is the opportunity that they would have if they did want to enter this market. Can also help them with what are the headwinds that they may face. How much competition is
mm,
there currently, and are they going to have a heavy lift in entering this market,
right.
or are they perhaps even going to be a disruptor? And be able to
Mm.
position them in a way that they can, provide value, to our veterans or the military with the products that they have.
So, an initial just call to say, "Hey, here's what we're trying to accomplish," might be a great place for them to start, right? For them to say, "Okay, here's what we're trying to accomplish," and then all of your experience, you should be able to say, "Well, hey, maybe over here is a good fit for you, or maybe this is
Hmm.
a better strategy over here." So just getting on a call with you is probably the step one, right? Book a call, find out how you fit, get your questions answered. Are you a good fit? And I think that makes sense that that's the best place for them to start.
Yes, it is. And my goal really isn't to, well, what my goal really is to help them be self sufficient, if that's what they want to do. So if I can get them up and going and teach them
Mm,
how this process works, then I can get them up to speed, and then I can hand the reins over to them if they wish, and they can keep, utilizing these tools, and they can
mhm,
continue their sales effectiveness in the government space. The other thing is that for companies that just don't have the resource to hire somebody full time. Um,
mhm,
Maybe a bad analogy, but I'll go ahead and use it anyway. But it's almost like your lawn service for your government sales. You can have an organization that's going to do everybody on your street. Things are going to be cleaned up. They're going to use
mhm,
the best technology. Things are always going to be well kept. And you can focus your time on your core things, spend time with your family or so on and so forth. You don't have to worry, is my landscape all cleaned up?
mhm,
In this space, if you're a small to mid-sized company and you don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars per year to hire somebody to do this full time, or um, allocate time yourself to be able to navigate this space, which is constantly changing. And
mhm,
maybe you don't have a long list of products, but you have enough that you think is going to add value, then somebody like me would be able to come in, manage a contract for you at a fraction of the cost that it would take for you to do it yourself,
mm,
and keep it up to date. Make sure that all your pricing is relevant, that your terms and conditions are current, your price list is up to date, everything is loaded the way it needs to be, and just kind of keep things moving on time and keeping it clean. And you can focus on your core business, and we can keep all
right.
this stuff squared away for you.
I love that. That's my business model, right? Hire me to manage
Yeah.
all the moving pieces and parts because
Hmm.
we're not all experts in everything, right? So you hire an expert in
Hmm.
their field to help manage the pieces that you don't know how to manage, right? That's what
Hmm.
makes it work. That's how we got the book written, right? That's how business works, right? Hire a professional to do the heavy lifting so that you don't have to
Right.
go out there and try to learn all the pieces yourself and do all the work yourself for sure.
Hmm.
So
And
we're
they're always
almost out of
changing.
time. And they're always changing. Yes. Phew, my industry is going through a massive change right now with AI, which is making me crazy. But
Mm,
um, I'm assuming healthcare is also an always changing environment. And then working with the government for sure is going to be a changing environment. So
it
we
is.
are almost out of time, but in the last few minutes, do you have anything specific that you want to share or talk about, or you know how
Sure.
to connect with people, or anything before we go?
Yeah, one thing I was remiss, I didn't catch this before, but I did want to just add it now. One of the things that also inspired me in writing this book is that the deployment that we did have overseas with the team that we had a broad array of folks with us. We had some cousins, some of them were like in their early 20s. One young man turned 19 as we were heading in, had some other more tenured people. What we did is the simplification of what we did enabled us to have everybody be effective in their role. So you'd be amazed,
Mm,
young people that were able to do such life-saving work because they were trained well. We kept everything simplified. We kept it, utilizing templates, and it really just showed me how effective you can be if you
mm,
just make sure that you have everybody. Um, One, just fully trained, but two, don't overcomplicate the process. And I found
right.
that by using templates and by just having a consistent way of doing things really did help all of these folks work very effectively. And then as at the time Sergeant First Class Proud, that really he just kept everybody connected, kept them all on the same page. He knew the workings of everybody, and was able to keep people engaged by really just again keeping the process simple. So I
Mm,
would just say simplifying the process, utilization of templates, and whether you're in a sales environment or in this environment, um, we found that it was just a very effective way to do things. And we did keep
mm,
score of how we were doing as well. So
right.
again, we kept it simple. But to your earlier comment, the best way to reach out to me is you can go to the website, you can book a call, um, and we can set up some time, have an initial discussion. I'll be candid and say, we're pretty booked at the time, but always willing to help people out as much as we can. And if it's a good fit and we can find a way to make it work, I'm here to help those in this lab industry that I love so much. The other
Mm,
thing is, I really felt like this is going to highlight the lab diagnostics industry because I don't think it, in a lot of cases, get the recognition that it deserves. You can see that in the dedication of the book. Laboratory
mm,
professionals many times are working in the part of the hospital that you never see, but they
hmm
influence
For
almost
sure.
every decision that's out there. They work very hard. I've been very fortunate and blessed to be in the sales side of this market and the clinical side of this market. But I really wanted to just bring to light the work that these good people do, the
Mm,
thoughtfulness that they put in to what they do, the science that they
mm,
do every single day is life saving. So I wanted to share
yeah,
that as well because I don't
yeah.
think that they get all the
Love that.
recognition that they really deserve.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I did spend some years in the lab, so I completely agree with that. We are totally out of time, my friend. Thank you for
All
taking
right.
time out of your
Yes,
schedule to
ma'am.
be
Thank you.
here. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks, Tom. All
Yes,
right,
ma'am. Thank
guys.
you.
Wow, you should feel like you have been educated for sure. Brilliant man. If you're in a position that you need his services, I highly recommend him. Reach out to him and at least have a conversation. We're out of time, but I just want to remind you that if you are looking to get your book out of your head and out to the world, I would love to have a conversation with you about getting that book created, that book that you could use as a tool for your business, ministry, cause, or brand. Remember that writing, speaking, and leading, those are the ways that we gain influence in our industry. So, whatever your industry is, if you're looking to take a position of influence and become a thought leader, you need a book, you need to get on some stages and speak, and you need to lead. So, I'm your book girl and would love to help you at least start the conversation. All right, guys, we're out of time. So, I'll see you same time, same place next week. Take care.